Have you ever imagined that an event happening thousands of kilometers away from you could completely change your life in just a few days? Not a small change, but a real shift in your daily expenses, your ability to live comfortably, and even your future plans. Imagine waking up in the morning, checking your phone like you always do, and seeing headlines about a major crisis in a distant region. Then you go to fill up your car, only to realize that fuel prices have nearly doubled. You walk into a store and notice that food prices have gone up, and little by little, you start to feel that everything around you is becoming more expensive. The question is, how can something so far away impact you this directly? The answer lies in one single point on the map, a place that may seem small, but in reality controls a huge part of the global economy. That place is the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is not just an ordinary waterway. It is one of the most critical economic arteries in the world, with around 20% of global oil supply passing through it every single day. That means 1/5 of the energy that powers the entire world flows through this narrow passage. This alone makes it one of the most strategically important locations on Earth. Major powers constantly monitor it, and global markets react to any news related to it, because if this artery stops functioning, the entire world starts to feel the pressure. Imagine a massive highway used by thousands of trucks daily, and suddenly it gets completely shut down. What happens? Chaos, delays, losses, and that's exactly what could happen globally if the Strait of Hormuz were to close. Now, let's dive into the most concerning scenario. What if this strait gets shut down? This could happen due to rising geopolitical tensions, a military conflict, or even a sudden attack that disrupts shipping routes. The moment that happens, the first reaction will come from oil markets. Panic will begin. Investors will rush to secure supplies, and countries will try to stockpile as much oil as possible. This sudden surge in demand, combined with restricted supply, would push prices up sharply. We're not talking about a slow increase. We're talking about massive spikes that could drive oil prices to $150, $200 per barrel, or even higher in a very short period of time. And this increase won't stay limited to the markets. It will immediately hit your everyday life. When oil prices rise, the first thing you feel is gasoline prices, because they are directly linked. This means you'll be paying much more for the same amount of fuel, possibly double what you used to pay. By 2026, experts suggest that in the case of a major crisis, gasoline prices could rise anywhere between 50% and 120%. That's not a small change. It's a serious shift in your monthly budget. If you rely on your car daily, this will hit you directly. And if you use public transportation, prices will likely increase as well, because companies themselves will be affected by rising fuel costs. But the real impact doesn't stop there. It expands into every aspect of your life, because energy is the foundation of almost everything. Take food, for example. Groceries don't magically appear in stores. They are transported using trucks, ships, and logistics systems that all depend on fuel. When fuel prices rise, transportation costs increase. When transportation costs increase, food prices go up. Suddenly, you find yourself paying more for the exact same items you used to buy regularly. Even basic essentials like bread, milk, and vegetables become more expensive, not because they are scarce, but because it costs more to get them to you. The same applies to industries and manufacturing. Factories rely on energy to operate machines, produce goods, and distribute them to markets. When energy costs rise, production becomes more expensive, pushing companies to increase their prices to maintain profits. In the end, the consumer is the one who pays the difference. You may start noticing that clothing is more expensive, electronics cost more, and even certain services begin to rise in price. Everything is connected through this chain. At this point, we move into an even deeper level of impact: the global economy. Rising energy prices can lead to higher inflation, meaning the value of money itself starts to decrease. You need to spend more to get the same things. In some cases, this can slow down economic growth as businesses cut back on investments and hiring. Unemployment may rise, and financial pressure builds across societies, creating a cycle that affects nearly everyone. Some might ask, why don't countries simply compensate for this shortage? Why not switch to alternative energy sources? The reality is that it's not that simple. Renewable energy like solar and wind takes years to scale and cannot instantly replace such a massive share of oil supply. Increasing oil production elsewhere also takes time, because extraction is not something that can be doubled overnight. This is what makes the world extremely vulnerable to disruptions in this narrow passage. As for gasoline price predictions in 2026, the situation depends heavily on geopolitical stability. If conditions remain relatively calm, prices are expected to stay within a reasonable range, with normal market fluctuations. However, if tensions rise or supply disruptions occur, prices could spike rapidly, potentially reaching levels not seen in years. This is why staying informed about global events is more important than ever. It gives you an early signal of what might be coming. So the most important question becomes, what can you do about it? The truth is, you can't control global events, but you can prepare for them. You can reduce fuel consumption, consider more efficient transportation options, manage your expenses more wisely, and keep some financial buffer for emergencies. Because crises don't always come with warnings, and those who are prepared are the ones who adapt best. In the end, the world is more connected today than ever before. A single event in a distant region can quickly ripple across the globe and reach your pocket directly. The Strait of Hormuz is a perfect example of this. It's not just a waterway, but a critical pressure point that can shake the global economy at any moment. The real question isn't just whether it could happen, but what you will do if it does, and whether you are truly prepared for a world where everything suddenly becomes more expensive overnight.